Today we get to talk about Joseph and his takeoff to Egypt, which has some interesting symbolisms.
As well as the favorite child of a family.
And I'll go into that. I'll explain that one too.
Yeah, well, you're the youngest of 10. You somewhat have some understanding with that.
But I was not in a polygamous family.
That is true.
So let's... Chapter 37, let's say a prayer first. Our Father in heaven, we thank thee that we are able to be here and be together on this very cold day. We thank thee for blessing us with health and strength and with peace in this life. We ask thee to please help us to learn good things and to share them well. Please help us to continue to have peace and to grow and become better people. We say these things and do so humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Alrighty. So chapter 37. Jacob loves and favors Joseph, who is hated by his brothers. Gee, I wonder why. Joseph dreams that his parents and brothers make obeisance to him. His brothers sell him into Egypt.
Oh, that's the worship, right?
No, they're honoring. It's not that they're worshiping, it's that they're saying, you have the power, you have the control, we are honoring your position.
Got it.
But remember how Rebecca came before Leah, was loved more than Leah? So Joseph is Rebecca's first son. So
the son of the favored wife is the favored son.
Right. So that's where this comes from, and he's got, I think he's number 11 total.
Yeah, he should be 11.
Something like that.
The other brothers are owned by the other people, and then
are children of the other women.
Except for Benjamin, who is number 12, and he's the youngest.
Right. Okay, so start off.
And Jacob dwelt in the land wherein his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan.
Of his father's sojourns. These are the generations of Jacob. Oh boy. Okay, we're not going to go into the genealogy.
Well, at this time, Joseph is 17 years old.
Yeah. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock. Good grief. Flock with his brethren. And the lad was with the sons of Bilhah and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought unto his father their evil report.
And the coat of many colors, they represent that as he was essentially telling on them because they were doing something they shouldn't have done.
He told on him, one way or the other.
Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors.
Do you know the reason why he gave him the coat of many colors?
To be honest, no. But according to the...
Footnote, Septuagint word indicates many colors, but the Hebrew term may indicate simply a long coat with sleeves.
So maybe just a fine coat?
It was a fine coat, and it was dual purpose. Number one, he is the child of the birthright. So he gets the leadership of the family, he gets the double portion when it's all divided up. And the other part is he is going to be the spiritual leader, and so this was a robe of leadership as well.
Yeah, that makes
spiritual leadership as well.
That adds more understanding as to why the brothers hated him so much, because he's the second and youngest, and there are 10 before him that are older than him that could have gotten the birthright, but because Rebecca
is the favored wife, and Joseph is the firstborn of the favored wife, and all of the other things that go into it. Maybe it was partially because he was older. We're not certain per se, but the big two are he's the oldest son of the favored wife, and so that, I guess, that's just the main thing.
And when his brethren saw their father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him and could not speak peaceably unto him.
Jealousy.
Hi, shut up.
I mean, yeah.
That might be an extreme representation, but you never know.
It might not be far off. And Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it his brethren, and they hated him yet the more.
And he said unto them, Hear, I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed.
For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaf stood round about, and made obeisance to my sheaf.
sheaf is a gathering of wheat.
Right. When you are agrarian culture and you rake up you scythe through your wheat, it lays down, and then the people coming behind grab an armful and take one of the reeds and ties it into a bundle, and that's called a sheaf. So
I always thought it was a separate piece of rope.
It might be, but I think that they just used a couple of the straws, and it only needed to hold it long enough that they could come by and throw it into the wagon and then take it off to be combined, or whatever they called it. Winnowing?
Threshing.
Threshing, yes. A combine thresher, yes.
Although in that state, they would just whack it themselves. Or
yeah, they would roll. It went through stages, but the main one that I have ever heard of is they would tie a round stone to a central shaft with a beam, and then they'd have a couple of animals walk it around so that it would crush all of the heads out of the straw, off of the straw, and then they'd pick it up with the wind blowing and just throw it in the air, and all of the chaff, all the little shells of the wheat would blow away. So that's for
agriculture know-how.
Yes. And his brethren said unto him, Shalt thou indeed reign over us? Look, bro, we ain't taking it. You know? Or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words.
Quote from the VeggieTales version, what are you saying, that you're going to rule over us like a king?
And he dreamed yet another dream, and told his brethren, and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. Okay, and this is where it gets even more interesting.
And he told it to his father and to his brother, and his father rebuked him, and said unto him, What is this that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to the earth? Wait, so even the father was being...
Yeah.
Okay, I've never actually noticed that one before.
Well, that's because this one skipped.
That's fair.
In Joseph the Technicolor Dreamcoat, they have this represented, but it's so fast.
And then in the
other versions,
the DreamWorks version for the Coat of Many Colors, he mentions that dream whenever he mentions the first dream.
Right.
And they also do it as a representation of it. But it seems that...
they just gloss over it.
No, Israel is all for it. Like, he's wanting everyone to consider it.
Oh.
Rather than him saying, no, you need to dial it back.
Yeah, I'm not going to be under you. So, yeah, this is... It's glossed over in most stories because of time and production and all that. I'll read the next two. And his brethren envied him, but his father observed the saying. So it wasn't that his dad hated it, but his dad was like, dude, wait a minute. Are you serious?
Then that kind of works with the DreamWorks version as well. He considered it.
Right. It's not that he hated it. It was just the shock of the initial, wait a minute. And then he was like, how is that going to work? And is this real? So his brethren went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. So they traveled because they were playing out the land. And
Israel said unto Joseph, Do not thy brethren feed the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send thee unto them. And he said to him, Here I am. In some cases, I like to imagine that he's bringing them boxed lunches.
It may be, but we also don't know how far away they were. This may be the dad saying, will you go check on them and make sure that everything's good and come back and tell me about it? And he said to him, Go, I pray thee, see whether it be well, there you go, with thy brethren, and well with the flocks, and bring me word again. So he sent him out of the vale of Hebron, and he came to Shechem.
And a certain man found him, and behold, he was wandering in the field, and the man asked him, saying, What seekest thou?
I wonder if this might be a place that they normally grazed their flocks then.
Probably.
Because he knew which field to go to. And he said, I seek my brethren. Tell me, I pray thee, where they feed their flocks.
And the man said, They are departed hence, for I heard them say, Let us go to Dothan. Dothan. And Joseph went after his brother and found them in Dothan.
And when they saw him afar off, even before he came near unto them, they conspired against him to slay him. So this is, we hate you so bad, we're just going to wipe you off the face of the earth.
Thank goodness they didn't have nukes back then.
or guns, you know.
Yeah. This would be over in a matter of seconds if that was the case.
Yeah.
The creation of the gun ended the need for conversation at times.
Yeah.
And they said one to another, Behold, this dreamer cometh. Come now, therefore, and let us slay him, and cast him into some pit. And will say, Some evil beast hath devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams.
And Reuben heard it.
He was the one who laid with his stepmother.
Yeah, but he's also the oldest in the family. And so he has a little bit more responsibility, even though Joseph is going to get it in the end.
At least he's somewhat dependable in that regard.
But, this is as much, I don't like him, but Dad's going to have it out with me.
And not just that killing him is just an extreme reaction.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
considering what's happened before and the fact they did get in trouble for doing that before.
Yeah. Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands and said, Let us not kill him. That just clicked in my head. The other half of it is, he is the oldest, and he would get the birthright. And he doesn't want the birthright with dirty hands. He doesn't want to claim it with blood on his hands.
And Reuben said unto them, Shed no blood, but cast him into this pit that is in the wilderness, and lay no hand upon him, that he might rid him out of their hands to deliver him to his father again.
And it came to pass, when Joseph was come unto his brethren, that they stripped Joseph out of his coat of many colors that was on him.
And they took him and cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty. There was no water in it.
I love what they do in the Technicolor Dreamcoat. They throw him in there, and it's not all that deep, but they play it that it's a long way down, and he comes climbing out, and he's got a little snake puppet in his hand. And as he comes up, he looks at the snake, and he's like, ah! And falls back down. It's hilarious.
That sounds like a cartoon effect.
It was very well done. Donny Osmond did that beautifully. Okay.
25. You.
Oh, I scrolled up somehow. And they sat down to eat bread, and they lifted up their eyes and looked, and behold, a company of Ishmaelites came from Gilead with their camels, bearing spicery and balm and myrrh, going to carry it down to Egypt.
I guess that we got a little bit more knowledge about Ishmael now. His family and kind became traveling merchants, and if you wanted confirmation, there's your confirmation.
Well, some of them were, but yeah.
Yeah. A good part of them, maybe.
Who knows?
And Judah said unto his brethren, What profit is it if we slay our brother and conceal his blood?
Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh, and his brethren were content.
Where's Reuben in this case?
The brethren were okay with that. They listened to that, and they went along with it.
Yeah, but most times they say that Reuben went away for a time and then came back and was sorrowful whenever he found out about that.
That's in 29. Go ahead.
Okay.
So he may have been off taking care of somebody, but either way.
Then there passed by Midianites, merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit, and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, and they brought Joseph into Egypt.
Somebody made an interesting note with this. If you consider inflation, Jesus was sold for 30 pieces of silver.
Huh.
Interesting
comparison.
Note. Yeah. We don't know how inflation worked back then, but, it's not outside of reason to say that there was a little bit of inflation from 2,000-3,000 years before Jesus. But Jesus was sold for maybe the price of a slave.
Dang. And Reuben returned unto the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit, and he rent his clothes.
So Reuben was obviously not there.
during the transaction.
Yeah. And he returned unto his brethren and said, the child is not, and I, whither shall I go? I'm going to be charged with this, guys.
And they took Joseph's coat and killed a kid of the goats and dipped the coat in the blood.
And they sent the coat of many colors, and they brought it to their father, and said, this have we found. Know now whether it be thy son's coat or no.
And he knew it and said, it is my son's coat, and evil beasts have devoured him. And Joseph is without doubt rent in pieces.
Can you imagine?
That gotta hurt. Even if the coat of many colors of DreamWorks has the timeline messed up, because Rebecca's not alive at this point, but...
No, she was dead.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. In the coat of many colors, that she's actually alive in the scene. But in the actuality of this scene, she is dead. Right. They showed and the voice actors assisted with this, the level of grief.
Yeah.
That...
Yeah.
Ishmael.
Well, just to begin with, having a child die, but having it be your favorite child. I mean, just, wow.
Die in what you think is a terrible death.
Yeah. And Jacob rent his clothes and put sackcloth upon his loins and mourned for his son many days.
And all his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. And he said, for I will go down into the grave upon my son mourning. Thus his father wept for him.
So
he's going to be mourning for the rest of his life, he's essentially saying.
Yeah. He had his daughters as well, so we know that there's more than one daughter.
Dang.
And the Midianites sold him into Egypt unto Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's and captain of the guard.
And thus we will continue in Egypt next.
Yep. It's amazing to look at this and see ooh, there it is right there.
What?
Hang on. Sold him into Egypt and Potiphar, we know who Potiphar is, an officer or eunuch.
What's a eunuch?
Someone who doesn't have testicles.
Oh, that makes sense a lot more as to why the lady was trying to...
Yeah.
Oh.
I can't have children because my husband doesn't have the ability to make children, and I want you to give me children.
That'll be explained later.
Yeah. And captain of the guard, chief of the butchers or the cooks, probably the chief steward. So he's an important person who has been gelded so that he won't try anything with the women of the...
so he chose to get rid of his testicles?
That was probably a requirement of his position. I will just say that.
Huh.
Whether or not he chose to is completely different story. But actually, tomorrow we get to deal with Judah doing something interesting.
Oh, so we're not going straight to Egypt just yet.
Nope. We've got one more story to go through for Jacob and his family. And that's an interesting story itself.
Okay.
Which is kind of fun to go through and kind of sad at the same time. But either way, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Adios.